My name is Mario Aguilar Cuautlejcoc, and I am the Capitán General of Danza Mexicayot, traditional Chicano, Tolteca, Chichimeca, Conchero, Azteca dance circle. La danza, and I use the term Danza Azteca because it's a lot shorter, but la danza is a statement that we make physically, mentally, emotionally, and most of all spiritually to recapture our indigenous essence. La danza is something that has existed for 530 some years in the land of the Chichimecas, where la danza originated. So for us as Chicanos, it reminds us that yes, we have mestizaje, we have, it's a reality of history, we can't change the past, but we can change where we are going. So when Florencio came in 74, when Andres Segura came in 74, it was an opportunity for us to learn directly from traditional elders and not new age maestros or whatever. And they taught the danza as it is in Mexico. And for us that was really important because, as Chicanos, we go to Mexico and they call us pochos because we don't speak good Spanish. Here in the United States, they call us, beaners, wetbacks, all the other stuff, because they don't accept us because of the color of our skin and our history as, quote, Americans. So as Chicanos, we're stuck in this place of abandonment, and the danza provided a third space, a sacred space for us to be who we are and not have to justify our existence because we don't speak good Spanish, we don't speak good English. Well, we speak pocho, we speak calo, we speak Chicano. And the danza reminds us every time we dance that it's not what language you speak, it's what your heart speaks. And so the drums transmit the rhythms from 500 years ago and probably a lot older than that. And the mandolinas and the guitars remind us that the rhythms were saved within the mandolinas and the songs and the dances that we do. So it provided a place for us to realize that we don't have to apologize for not being pure-blooded Native American, because really there are not that many people who are. And many times when you see card-carrying, quote, American Indians, they don't look like they're American Indians. So for us, it just showed us that our traditions span from pure indigenous to pure Spanish, European, and we're in the middle. So our sacred space, as presented by danza, is we are indigenous people, but we live in this 21st century reality, and we shouldn't be ashamed of that. We shouldn't try to wipe away all the Catholic stuff. We shouldn't try to wipe away all the Spanish language, because that's wiping away a part of us. Unless you're pure-blooded and have really dark skin and straight hair, all of us have either European or African or Asian blood in our veins. So la danza reminds us that we are part of the human experience, and that by keeping alive our traditions, we are giving our children and our grandchildren and future generations that we'll never meet, we're giving them a space to be safe, a space to flourish, and a place to walk both paths, the indigenous past of our ancestors, but also the reality of 21st century. We can't be 100% all the time danzantes because we would starve. We would have to be selling our danza for whoever pays the most in order to survive, and we can't and we shouldn't do that. So la danza, by providing a sacred space for us, provides resistance, it provides self-determination, it provides self-reliance, and it provides us a way to walk forward as equals with all American Indian tribes from the tip of Alaska to the tip of South America. We're all part of the American Indian history, the Native American history, the indigenous history, Doesn't matter what word you use. The Indio history, whatever words are used, it doesn't matter, because what matters is what does, like they said in Mexico when I went to study Nahuatl, Tlen quito a moyolo, ¿qué dice tu corazón? That's what matters.
My name is Luis Miguel Tovar. I dance with Danza Mexicano, and I'm their Sargento General. For me personally, my family, where Chicano Park means everything. It's everything for us spiritually, as a family and as a group. We have I have danced there ever since I began learning back in 1992. I began learning these traditions here in San Diego with my compadre. And Chicano Park, for us, what our community has done there, what us as danzantes have what to preserve at Chicano Park, it's really spiritual and beautiful for us. So for us to dance at Chicano Park it's our spiritual hub, where we could go be ourselves, be who we truly are inside when we get dressed, where my kids can be themselves. My kids have been dancing there since before they were born. They don't know any different. They know what Chicano Park means. We're gonna go, we're gonna dance, we're gonna sacrifice a little bit of ourselves, not only for our families, but more importantly for our community. That means everything to us, that we need to preserve Chicano Park. There's no place like dancing at Chicano Park. I mean, for many danzantes here in the United States, for us Chicanos, the only thing I could compare it to is, for danzantes in Mexico, they tell us, oh, there's nothing like dancing at Chalma, or dancing at the Villa for la Virgen, or dancing in Querétaro. But for us as Chicanos, there's nothing like dancing at Chicano Park. That's a special place for us, where danzantes from all over the U.S. come and dance, and I've been getting the phone calls, is there gonna be a Chicano Park? Are we gonna dance at Chicano Park? And unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, we can't, but it's that special to us. For us to dance, to give a little bit of ourselves, to give back, to preserve what's real important to us, spiritually, culturally, and more importantly, for us to preserve that little bit for my kids. So hopefully, whenever they decide to have their kids, there would be that special place for them to dance, and they could feel the same way. And then the chills you get when you dance underneath the bridge, and there's nothing like the sound, the drums, and everything beating off the walls, and it feels, when you have 300 danzantes dancing at a time, it moves you in many, many ways. So dance is really, real important for us, and Chicano Park is real important for us as our spiritual balance, and gives us strength, and we derive strength because of everything our community has suffered to maintain that place, and continues to do so. They keep on trying to take that place away from us, but that's why we dance. That we can't let it happen, and it's just that's spiritually important to us, for us to keep that place for ourselves, but not for ourselves, but for our community as a large, for our people, that they will always have for generations to come.
So Chicano Park is really, many of us in the Chicano community here in San Diego consider it to really be the heart of our cultura, the heart of our community. It's our land. And so there's that strong land base, and the Kiosko is such a magical and spiritual place that everybody wants to share their danzas there. Everybody wants to share the prayers and their danzas at Chicano Park. That's why you can look at the Chicano Park Steering Committee schedule, and almost every day of the week there's a different dance group that practices there. Our group a long time ago decided to share the danzas in other parts of San Diego, to also make space, for the groups that were blossoming. And what's happened as a result over time is many of these groups have formed and strengthened and have now taken on the obligation, the obligación, to have a ceremony every year. And most of them offer the danza at Chicano Park for their ceremonies. And when they do that, they invite all the other groups to come and participate with them. So, for instance, we have Of course, Chicano Park Day, the commemoration of our anniversary of the founding of the park every year in April. The Capuli Mexica have a ceremony in February for Cuauhtémoc. We have our ceremony, Danza Mexicayo has a ceremony to honor La Familia, the Sagrada Familia, in July. Many groups come together and dance at the park for Dia de Animas, for muertos. And there are many others, I think, that occur throughout the year. And every time there's a danzada at the park, most groups invite other groups to come. And so we all come together, we share, we learn from one another. And it's a magical place to share that energy. The other thing that Chicano Park does is it brings people far beyond San Diego to dance at the park. When we have our ceremony, we can have 200 or 300 danzantes participate. And probably in San Diego, there's maybe about 100. So we get folks that come every year from Los Angeles, San Fernando, San Francisco, San Jose, all throughout California. We get groups that come from Colorado, Arizona, and then we have a lot of Mexicano groups who, if they can make the passage, they love to come and dance at Chicano Park. And one of the things that they've said to us is that our danzas here in Aztlán are very disciplined and orderly. And we've had to work hard to create that. You know, we were thinking back to the early days of the danza here in Aztlán, and I mean, my son refers to it as the wild, wild west of the danza, right? And we'd get together and we never knew if something was going to get broken or some kind of ugly thing might happen. But that doesn't happen anymore. And it's because we've worked very, very hard to create a discipline, to create really a respect for our antepasados and these danzas. And so when the jefes come from Mexico and they see what we do and how we run our ceremonies and how we use wooden drums, in Mexico many use metal drums now and they're really super loud, and we don't allow that. We only use wooden drums, and we always place somebody in charge of the drums so that the drums are playing in an orderly fashion and together as a community. They're very impressed by that, and they really do love coming to Chicano Park whenever they can. So it is a place different than any other, I think, in Aztlán, that brings people from both sides of the border and from many different states to come together and share the danza at Chicano Park.
My name is Andres Aguilar, and I am a member and heredero of Danza Mexicayo here in San Diego, part of Mesa del Señor de los Danzantes.
How is your danza a form of cultural resistance and cultural restoration, revitalization?
That's a big question. I would say that the way I see the role that my danza has is, on the one hand, it brings the indigenous traditions from central Mexico to our communities here, where many times now, of course, now they have 40 years of history in San Diego, but still it's always conquistando nuevas corazones, right? And so people are drawn to the tradition, learning about their herencias indígenas from Mexico, learning about the richness of those traditions, and over time eventually getting past some of those ideas of it only being Azteca, but really a whole number of indigenous traditions that come from all of our communities in Mexico and across Aztlán. But I think the place where it has the strength for the youth and really being a type of restoration, cultural restoration and revitalization, it provides a space for really connecting at a spiritual level. In this world that we live in that is so about technology and about buying things and moving, and it creates a space where there's time to be one with your ancestors and with future generations, in the sacred space of the danza, sharing one solo corazón as you're dancing, as you're singing, as you're praying. It really changes your perspective on the world and on living, and brings it more to an indigenous worldview where there's more emphasis on that human connection, on your hermano, your hermana, and the community, the larger community interests over your own interests, and having that place where daily spirituality is a part of everyday life, and not something that you do every once in a while when you need it, but it's really a daily part of your life. And so for me, amongst all the other things that the danza brings, my danza the Azteca, Chichimeca, Concheros, Tolteca, all the names that it has, in addition to bringing the images of feathers and arte and all the other things, it's that spirituality piece that for me is where the danza really provides a space for revitalization and restoration of some of the things that so many parts of our history have stripped away, and especially here in Aztlán, the types of struggles that we face as a community continue to challenge us, and again, provides that spiritual space that also gives us strength to fight and keep moving forward and moving our community forward together. For my group and for me as a danzante in Danza Mexicayot, I think Chicano Park is a piece of our corazón, right? A piece of the corazón of our danza, and I think it's a piece of the corazón of all the danzas. And I think for me, there's a couple of ways that Chicano Park is so important to the danza, to my danza. And the first is its origins, like why Chicano Park exists. Chicano Park exists because of community action, because of a community finding its voice and saying, we have needs and we want them and we're going to make them happen whether anybody likes it or not. And that is something that is a lesson that carries on through our danzas across Mexico and across Aztlán throughout time and space, of keeping these things alive no matter what. And so Chicano Park itself is an inspiration for danzantes here in the United States to always be, to come from a place of strength for resistance, that our danza is a type of resistance, a way of saying, we might figure out how to walk in this world and figure out the movidas that it takes to survive in this world, but we're not going to lose who we are, and we're going to keep moving forward in the way that we see our future. And so for the danzantes who come to Chicano Park, no matter what background they have, those messages that are painted on the walls, that are in the soil itself from what has made the park possible, it leaves and inspires something in their corazón that they take with them wherever they go. So for my group, I know for me as a danzante in my group, dancing at Chicano Park is really important for that sense, because of how much of our history and our future is told in the story of Chicano Park and the continued struggle for Chicano Park. But the other piece too is going back to our indigenous ways and the traditions that we learn. It's always so important to remember our animas and to be connected to those that came before us. And so for me, Chicano Park, San Diego, estamos en la frontera, it is that puerta to the United States. And so many of the jefes who have brought their teachings to the danza in Aztlán amongst Chicanos, one of the first places, if not the first place they usually danced, was at Chicano Park. And so when I dance at Chicano Park, in addition to dancing with my community, in my community, with those who are coming and making that larger community of danzantes from across the United States and from Mexico, I'm also dancing with the spirits who have now passed, who are there at the park. So many, and I want to start naming all of them, but those spirits that really, in my childhood, getting to know them and dancing with them at the park, and then now that they've gone, they're there dancing with us at the park. And that other piece too is that creating a larger community across borders. For me, Chicano Park is so important because danzantes in Mexico, when they think of danza in the United States, For a lot of them, the image is danza in Chicano Park. The place that Chicano Park holds in our culture here in Aztlan, in a Chicano community, has transmitted to Mexico as well. And so many danzantes in Mexico who have come and visited have danced at Chicano Park. They take the magic of the place that is Chicano Park with them home. And it has been one of those puertas that's really created a larger community of danzantes across the border, making that border irrelevant.
We're going to sing Nuestro Señor Quetzalcoatl, which was, at the time, I didn't know it was an alabanza, but they took the music from an alabanza and put Chicano words to it. It was written by Alorista and Juan Felipe Herrera, and it was one of the favorite alabanzas that Florencio heard here. He would always tell me, sing Señor Quetzalcoatl, because it talks about the spirit of the indigenous people leaving and, you know, the trauma of war and things. And then finally it says, Señor Quetzalcoatl has returned. And the return is not a physical body returning, it's the spirit that returns within us as Chicanos. So that's why we really like that alabanza.
Park has been an integral part of my family since my husband and I got married. When I married him, he was involved with Toltecas and Aslan, and I didn't dance at the time. I was too shy to dance. I didn't see myself as a dancer. So I helped in the kitchen, you know. And then after being married about, 6 months, we would have our practices at Chicano Park, at the kiosco, and then we would go inside to the building that was, I think it was maybe owned by the Chicano Federation at that time. And we would use a downstairs, like a basement area, and we would have practice inside when it was cold and rainy. And I would just sit and watch, and so after a while I finally figured, I might as well join this, it was calling me. And so every year for the first really 25 years of my marriage, we danced at Chicano Park on a weekly basis. My children spent hours and hours at Chicano Park, and we hosted the annual celebration for Chicano Park Day. And we really grew it into a full ceremony, because we would have so many people who would come from out of town, and they'd say, all we're going to do is dance at the community performance on Saturday? So then we created a velación at night, and we didn't know what we were doing. We were learning the ceremonies, and we would bring jefes from Mexico to teach us. And then the next day we would meet at the park, and we would dance all day long on Sunday. And we practiced that for many, many years. There were some politics in the community, and there were reasons why, for health reasons, we decided to pass that palabra on to someone else. And we gave it back to the steering committee. And it was really hard. It was extremely painful for us to not be part of Chicano Park celebration. And so we didn't participate for a couple of years, but we couldn't stay away. We had to come back. And then we created our new ceremony, where we have a different atmosphere, and it's very calm at our ceremony. It's not the great big celebration for the commemoration, and it feels complete for us, and it works for our family now. And the good that came out of that is that tradition was passed on to some other people, maybe people who had been critical of us in the past. And they got to see what it's like to put on something like that, and that it's a lot of work, and it's not easy, and you're never going to please everybody all of the time. But it's continued, and it's it had its highs and its lows. But Chicano Park has always been important to my family. It's the thing that inspired us on an annual basis to make our new trajes, to learn our new dances, to work hard at our dances, so that we could make a strong and genuine offering at Chicano Park. And still to this day, even though our main celebration is in July, it's still a focal point for us. In addition to that, we created a mesa de danza 4 years ago when Mario was named general. And the groups that joined our mesa, and this is very much in the tradition of Mexico, is the Capuli Mexica and Angelica Tonantzin. Her group is Grupo Tonantzin. And so the three of us formed this mesa, and they now hold the celebration for the commemoration of Chicano Park Day, and we work with them on that. And about 3 years ago, we started to have the velación again at Chicano Park on Friday night to pray for the well-being and good intentions of everybody that would come the next day. And so we feel that we're back. We're back in that role, but just not quite in the same way. We're sharing it with our sisters, sister group, Grupo Calpuli Mexica, with Juan and Aida Flores, and it's been good. So for us, Chicano Park is important. It's an important part of our legacy, and we'll never let it go. We'll be there as long as we can, and my children feel the same way. And I have one grandchild at this point. Hopefully, he also feels that same call to the park. El is yours.
first memory of dancing at Chicano Park?
Ooh,
The age you were, and what is your first memory of it?
you know, I can't even remember what my first memory was. It's like, it's kind of those things that it's always been, you know, it is the most natural place to be and dance. I can't even remember.